Hi, Brooke.
Oh, hey. Oh, hi, Jake.
Yeah,
So we
that's
introduced
I'm
each other.
I'm Jake.
Crazy.
Do you want to introduce me, or I'll introduce you if you introduce me. Go ahead, introduce me.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
So this is Jake. He is 5'9", and that's all you need to know about him.
and this is Brooke. She is rated B, so a B tier person. Anyways, what are we talking about today, Brooke?
We're going to talk about The 8 Show, a relatively new Korean drama on Netflix.
I will say, Brooke didn't want to watch this show until I told her, "You're never gonna watch this show, but it's a good show," and she then did watch it on her own accord, not because I told her to.
Exactly. And you know what? I did really enjoy it. We
I
can
thought it
talk
was
about
fine.
the good things first. What did we enjoy? Okay.
It's one of those shows where it's like I just needed something to sit down, and it is like binge worthy. It kind of catches your attention. I have a lot of issues with the show personally. I like it a lot, but I'm gonna be harsh on it. So I want to hear
Okay.
your good things, and I'll be like, yeah, I agree, because
Okay.
I can't think of a specific that I'm like, oh yeah, that was great.
Okay. So first thing, like obviously when I started watching it, I was like, this is definitely like Squid Games vibes for sure.
100%, 100%. Yeah.
But and it even did the whole thing with like the childlike, like the big playground and like the pool and things like that, which was interesting. I'm not sure where that fit in the theme other than it being like they had to make up games, but in general, when they went in there, like the people who were running the show didn't give them games.
Well,
So like
that's one of my big issues with the show is that it seems like it wanted to be Squid Game, but it wasn't. And then honestly, it just kind of just felt like the theme of the show is obviously entertainment, like the entertainment value, which I think that is a very cool stance to make on it, of that people and viewers are always looking for the next like most shocking thing to be interested in a show.
Mhm.
But the setting didn't match that. Like obviously the
Mhm.
rooms that made sense. So like they were also making a comment on society, but the main room didn't make any sense to me on why they would do that.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Even though it was like visually interesting, I'm not sure what the theme, like what the
Well,
idea of that, how did it go with the theme per se?
yeah, and that's one of my biggest issues with. I'm very much so into film theory. I love talking about like, oh, the deeper meaning of this color and this means this, and then color wheel stuff is always interest me. But for this
Mhm.
specific show, and I've mentioned it to a couple people, the opening of the show, they always do that different frame size, the aspect ratio.
Mm,
I don't think it's like 4:3. It's a weird aspect ratio because it's really thin, but it makes no sense. I'm like, I guess what they're trying, like, I was trying to figure out what is the statement here that they're making for this aspect ratio, and the only thing I kept thinking was the world opens up to them when they have more money, but then we leave the show, and when he's leaving at the very end in the last episode, it goes back to that small aspect ratio. So the world didn't open
yeah,
up now that he has money, and I was like, to make that statement, the world needed to be big again, but it wasn't.
right.
Unless I'm
Well, then
misremembering
again,
that.
no, I agree because I think it did go back to the smaller ratio at the end. I also was waiting for it to make sense as to why that was occurring, and it never did to me. But I guess if we're going with that, that the world opens up with money, technically, unless I'm wrong, I feel like it did say that he spent all of the money he earned on holding the funeral and the advertisement, like the giant billboards to get the people to come to it. So I
Was it
think
all the money? Was it all of it?
I
I
I'm
remember
gonna
he
go
said
ahead
he
and
lost half of
say,
it because he shot a
well, he
camera.
lost half, yeah, shooting the cameras. So we already had half of what he would have had, and then coming out, I really think I remember them saying that he was like, yeah, like he spent all his money on the funeral and the the billboards and things like that.
I gotta know. I got a calculator next to me. I gotta do some quick math. Hold on. I want to know how much he made. I might have to use my actual phone on this because my calculator can't do a billion. But if we know room one had at least $1 billion, so one, two, three.
Right.
How many zeros are in a billion? Hold on, that's a million. Oh,
8?
is it 8 zeros?
Oh no, that's a million. Oh my.
Is it?
We're exposing ourselves
Yeah,
right
I don't know how
now.
many zeros.
Wait, okay. One,
Billion is after
two,
million,
one,
right?
two,
It's
3. Yeah.
okay. So okay, I've
Million.
got if number one made $1 billion and he was making 10,000 per minute. Hold on. So and the other guy was making 30,000. So he's just making.
30.
He's just yeah. So he made three billion, right? Or is it 30
I don't.
billion? No, it's 3 billion. I don't. I'm not good at math. I'm a film major.
Okay, 1
Um,
billion has 9 zeros, if that helps.
9 zeros. Okay, so I think he made 3 billion. I think that's what. So if he lost half of it, so he got down to 1.5 billion. Sure, I don't know. In the world of the show, I know they said that he might have spent the rest of his money on that funeral. It doesn't make sense. And like I get that they wanted to have that ending and it's kind of like a sweet ending seeing these people come back together, but it doesn't make sense. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I did like that they got back together though. I didn't have a problem with that. I thought that was fun because I also wanted to know like what happened with them. And I like that they didn't. It said that Third Floor didn't really like ask them about themselves or their lives
Mhm.
after that, so that like when they left, it was still like an experience they all remember, but they aren't like banding together in the real life because that would be kind of unrealistic. I don't know.
Let me tell you this.
Like,
Let me ask you this question because this is an actual theory question that I have about this show.
mm,
I believe that we meet the show creator in the show.
okay.
Not like, like in the world of what they're living. I believe we meet the show creator. I think Seven created this show. I think Seven, that is his show.
I okay.
I have some points that I want to point out that I believe why he created the show.
Okay, go for it because I could be convinced.
Okay, so obviously we know he has that meeting with the industry guy and they're talking about the show and the show sounds eerily similar. It's not an
Hmm.
exact, but it's eerily similar. And one of the things that I pointed out is in every situation, you see that he really just goes with whatever is going to get the audience views. He's rooting for three because he knows that them escaping makes better TV. So that's why he helps because he wants to keep the show going because it's his show. So in
Hmm.
every scenario, he swaps sides depending on who is known as the good guy at the time or the bad guys.
Yeah.
Whatever makes better TV. He's always helping the person that is not, like the bad person at the time. So I think that's
Hmm.
another reason that, and also he picks a high number, but he doesn't want to be like totally outed that it's his show. So he picks seven
Right. Okay.
because he knows that it's better. It just makes sense to me that like what would be the importance of seeing him in that meeting and describing a show that is almost this show if it's not his
Hmm.
show?
So that I agree. Like I feel like that would really tie some things together, but that also is reliant on like we think that the show was like smart enough to do that and to like tie those all together and drop enough hints that that was the case. And are we sure that it is
I don't
smart enough?
well
You know?
I don't know when the show was created. It's based off a webcomic, as they show that at the end of the each episode. It's based off a webcomic. I haven't read the
Hmm.
comic. I don't know when the show started being created, but it's really similar to Squid Game. And if we're tying
So
it
I
back to Squid
actually,
Game, I don't know.
well, I did read a thing. I don't know what year the webtoons were written, but I do know that it was actually the webtoons were written before Squid Games or
Really?
Squid Game came out
Okay.
at all. Like, so this was technically an idea before Squid Games was.
Okay. Hmm.
So, yeah, so I don't know that it was like, this is Squid Games. Like, maybe Squid Games producers got their idea from this show. So,
Well, let me throw another theory at you. And obviously, these are all half baked. I haven't really sat down and like proved my theories on them.
mhm.
But here's my other theory that this is hell. I
Okay.
because one, we never see the show creators, and we allude to the fact
Mhm.
that everyone was about to kill themselves. We never see a driver. Everything's fake. I mean, it just would make sense, and they're torturing each other this whole time, and somehow they still don't escape the the levels of like rich to poor. Like they're still stuck in that circle.
Dude.
So maybe they did kill themselves, and they are all in hell.
Okay. Why do I never think of these things? That's actually genius.
But the thing that does make sense is that they go back to the real world. And so that would be
But-
what's against that theory is the ending.
True, but maybe it's just part of because also didn't they maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like also in the scene where Seven was showing like his script to the producer guy,
Hmm.
like didn't the producer guy say something about like there being like a sequel or something? Am I crazy?
I can't remember.
I
It's
feel
been a
like I
minute.
feel like that was the thing. But if that's the case, or even if it's not the case, it could just be part of the loop. Like they all go back, right, to the
Hmm.
real world. Say that this is hell, right? And they
And
go
it
back to
starts
the real
over.
world and it starts over because they realized they weren't even really happy when they got back. 8 went to jail, you know.
Hmm.
7 is probably going to have a hit and then fail again, just like he did at the beginning of his career.
Hmm.
You know, 1 died, but did he die? That also might
That's another thing to
negate the
talk
hell
about.
thing.
I him dying. I mean, I can't say that I didn't see it coming. I knew that was coming. I didn't know who was gonna die. I had a hunch it was him because when you
Mm.
think about those characters, who would be have the most impact on who if someone died? It's one. One has the most impact.
That's fair because from the beginning, they set him up as like this sweet guy and like everyone felt bad for him type of thing because I know
Yeah.
I did. Every time someone did something or said something rude about him, I was like,
You're like,
I
shut
felt
it.
so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, shut up. He's such a cool guy. Like,
Which also lends back to the fact that this might be Seven's show of Seven knows that one would be the most like lovable character. And that it goes into like we're sitting here proving it. We're talking about how much we love that character and how much impact it has when he dies. Of like visually, although we didn't want him to die, we knew that that's what had to happen for entertainment value.
yeah, exactly.
And that's what the whole point of the
So,
show is.
yeah, so like a showrunner, like, or someone writing scripts would hopefully know that.
Hopefully know
And
that
so,
he's
like,
gonna die.
Seven, if he was, yeah, if he was writing that, that would be something that he would put in.
Hmm. I
Yeah.
think okay, let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on number 3?
Okay. It's also one of those things where, like, he was set up to be the main character
But
or,
he's
like, the one we
not.
follow, but he's
Yeah,
not really, yeah.
he's so like
So,
compared to the others, I don't think he's that interesting.
and I guess that might come into, which is weird that they would do this, but it might come into the thing where, like, a, a lot of, like, fiction, like novels, because this is what I just have experience with, like, the main character a lot of times is almost a blank slate
Hmm.
because it's like, this is who we want to put ourselves, like, this is our character, this is who we see ourselves as, or something. So
Hmm.
maybe that's the reason, like, because you couldn't relate if, say, the main character was supposed to be like 8 or like
6.
2. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone, or 6. Yeah, no one, not everyone is gonna relate to that.
I guess. I mean,
So
but I
maybe
think
that's
if we had to replace the main character with a different number, I think you would have to go with 2.
really.
Yeah, because 1 is too tragic of a character for us to be in his shoes.
I agree with that.
So you would have to pick somebody else, and the next best person I would think is 2. I think 2 should have been the main character. I just wish
Mm.
3 had a little bit more of a personality. It's like there's full episodes genuinely where I can't tell you what he did. And to me, that makes it uninteresting because, like, from a writing standpoint, I was always taught in writing that if your main character doesn't actively try to change the situation, he's just sitting back and he's non moving. And so that
Hmm.
doesn't allow for change, which is always interesting for a viewer's standpoint. And two, it just makes
Mhm.
everything feel stagnant. And I think one of the worst things about this show is, and I'm jumping subjects, sorry. One of the worst things about this
Yeah.
show is that it's a circle. It's like it gets really repetitive.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, they got control. Oh, they got control. Oh, they got control. Like, and that's when one took control at the very end. I was so bored. I'm like, really? He's gonna like. It made sense that he would try, but it just, I was so bored with that.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It did feel very repetitive, but I don't think it got I think to me the first four episodes when I watched them, I they went really quickly to me. Like I felt like I was like, okay, next one, next one. And then when I sat down to watch the next four, I still enjoyed them and like I still watched them all in a row, but they felt longer. And I think
Yeah,
that's because of how it got repetitive. But again, that's also the point that Seven was making too. He like said that throughout the whole thing that things were going to have to escalate. So of course it was repetitive, but every time it was like more aggressive
and with
or
him
like
making that call, you could make the argument that it was like either he just knows TV since he's an executive, but it could also be that he is the showrunner for this show, so he knows things are going to have to escalate.
hmm yeah, I agree.
Uh,
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I also with one taking control, what was it that I didn't see? I guess okay, when two, like when they were trying to figure out who was like pulling out the guy's toenails and like the
Mm-hmm.
teeth and all that, I did kind of agree at first with two when she's like, "Oh, it's you because you want to keep all it's you one like you want to keep you said you wanted to get to 1 billion."
Mm-hmm.
And and then he said, "No, I don't even have the stomach for it." Or whatever. Was that three or one?
That was one.
Oh, that was one. Okay. So, which I don't know, makes sense because you want to believe that as a like viewer too. Because it's like you see how he is the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
but then contradicts itself whenever it was in the I think or was it later or the previous I don't know. See, this is why I really need a breakdown of each episode. But he when the lower floors got a hold of the upper floors and then floor one was the only one who like was like hitting them and like
Well,
talking
he
you know
never really hit him. Like I think there's that
not
image where
bad,
he's like
yeah.
he's about to hit him and then he just starts crying and he can't do it.
Okay, I
Because
feel that does
she's
happen.
yeah, she's getting on to three because she's like, really, you want to keep this show going? Kick her. She's helpless. Kick her.
Oh yeah, three couldn't do it.
Yeah, three couldn't do it, and then one was going to, and then he couldn't do it either. Right?
Okay, I don't know, I feel like he did but like not bad, like I feel like he did but just he
Barely.
didn't do it with gusto. I
Yeah.
feel like
I feel like when we're looking at these characters and analyzing them, it's just so they just feel so cookie cutter. Like some of them do. Like
Mhm.
one makes sense to me, two makes sense to me, but like I never really I eventually figured it out, but the difference between 4 and 5 was not that great to me. They were kind of the same person. They eventually were not, but in the first few episodes I didn't see a difference. Um
Mhm. Yeah, it wasn't huge at the beginning.
yeah,
um
let's make a theory here. I'm just going to pitch something to you. Let's tie the two theories that we had earlier that this is Seven's show and that they're in hell. What if Seven is the devil? And I can point to evidence that he might be the devil. What do you think?
Okay, listen, that's kind of far-fetched, but I
Can I
can see it.
can I pitch it?
Also,
Can I pitch it to you real quick? Because we don't see him at the end when they go back to real life. He's not there, but he did give all his money to one's family because one sold his soul to the show.
oh, that's such
Se-
a strong point.
Seven might be the devil.
Ah, it's
And
so
that's why
strong.
he always got away with stuff. Like I mean, genuinely, he never got caught. Like he was always
He,
free.
yeah, he always played whatever field was the winner.
He, to me, is the most morally gray character.
Yeah, and he was manipulative. Like he manipulated
Oh
both
yeah.
sides
Well,
constantly.
and then even like you can the one time where we're talking about him having emotion during that scene, because I remember that scene where they're like even Seven was a little emotional. That camera
Hmm.
angle is from behind him. You don't see his face. So it
Hmm.
could be that he was manipulating again, that he really wasn't. I mean, it's his show. I mean, maybe he wasn't
Yeah.
feeling anything. I think it's got to be.
Maybe,
I think he
maybe
has to be the devil now.
maybe.
Now that I'm thinking, because how else would the show get these people right before they kill themselves?
You know what? That is such a strong point. And also, here's the thing, could be so like irrelevant, but doesn't isn't a thing about the seven layers of hell?
Yeah,
That's a small point,
there is
but
eight
I mean it kind
floors,
of fits.
but there's eight
Yeah, but if
floors.
seven is the
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
And I think,
Could be nothing.
I mean, I don't know, but like you can make that tie. I mean, there's you could tie anything to it. And honestly, from a showrunner standpoint, and if he was the devil and he was a showrunner, I think they put the best person they possibly could in eight because she was absolutely just unhinged. Like
Yep.
straight up just did whatever she wanted, had no like backing down from it. I don't think you could have put another character into that room and have it have the impact that it did.
I agree. Besides maybe six,
Yeah, even that
but
like
even then,
even then like I think he's harsh and rash, but like he was still tied a little bit and like to her, like he was still serving her. And you can make the argument
yeah,
it might be that she was 8, but I don't think it was for that reason. I think he just had some morals, not total morals, very very bad morals, but he had something that was grounding him. 8 has
yes,
nothing grounding her. She is like there's
absolutely.
just total. Let me ask you, when you watched the show, did you watch with subtitles or did you watch dub?
I watched dub.
Okay, I also watched dub. Her voice
Mhm.
character is so just like unsettling
Yeah.
because it's like it's just really like it just feels like she's in a different world, like a different show. Like it's odd.
Yeah. And the constant just like giggles and laughing, just in any scenario is insane. Like
Yeah, I
at
mean,
first you just think she's really like maybe she's like prissy, preppy, annoying. Like at first you think that, and then as it goes on, you're just like, okay, she laughs at violence. Like she does not care. She will hoard all the supplies, like has no problems doing that. As soon as they're like bowing down to her again, she's like, "Okay, I guess I'll give you peasants something." Like it's like she's so insane. And then lest we forget the sleep torture sequence.
that that sequence to me is so odd. And I get that it's because he's hallucinating, but like I don't know the point of it. I really like
I just well, I mean, obviously the feeling it gives you,
mhm.
I think is the point. Like
Yeah,
it's just I don't
unsettling.
know. Like it's very unsettling and it's just like, okay, this is gotta be nearly the point where it turns where they're like they literally have to leave. They have to get out because it's like it's so bad,
In
you
that
know?
sequence, I do want to point out that number 1 doesn't limp. He's walking normal. And
What?
so, yeah, in that sequence, he's not limping, he's walking. And I think that's kudos to that actor that limped that entire time and then for that sequence to walk normal. I thought that was like kind of once again, it's a show.
Did he walk normal?
I think he walked
'Cause-
normal. I'm pretty sure he
Huh.
did.
Because well, okay, maybe he did. I know, I think it was kind of masked because when he got out of the like the what do you call it, the chute,
Yeah.
he was still kind of hunched over, and I think that was just the action of what he was doing and like the creepiness. But he was like kind of hunched, and then he like kind of like almost crawled out. So I think to me, like it came across as he was still limping or moving weird, but maybe he wasn't.
To me,
See, again,
okay,
I'd have to watch that.
for that sequence, I think something you could also match trying to like figure out. This is an interesting question for you. If we're going with the idea that this is just a show, like this is a TV show, do you
Hmm.
think it's possible that the TV show made it seem like they were paying everybody, but they were really only the only person that was not in on the show was three? Because visually, we're watching that scene of him falling apart and hallucinating. But if we're supposed to be watching the show, that scene we wouldn't see it unless it was really happening.
That's true.
And so maybe they're all actors in three, like a Truman Show sort of thing.
Hmm.
I think that's a little far fetched. I just thought that
I
was
think
like
it's a
that's
far.
yeah, but I'm just throwing
Yeah, I
stuff out
think the
there.
other theories are more probably probable. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean
But
it's anybody's like oh this is it's anyone's guess. But like
yeah,
I don't know, just seeing
that
him
is
walk
true
normal. I
though.
really think he walked. I gotta look it up. Hold on, I'm gonna look up that sequence see if I can find it.
Look it up. Because also like the whole thing about him walking normal again, and I don't know the part where when one takes over and he does his like circus show, he tightrope walks. He he literally balances on a tightrope across a giant chasm like twice. And that how is he going to do that if he has a limp?
Yeah,
I was thinking that the second he got up there. I was like, how are you going to do this, buddy?
I can't find that
I don't
clip.
know.
But like that even that I can't find the clip. I don't know what it's
Okay.
pulling up. But it was with that idea, then it lends itself back to maybe he is an actor of I mean getting up on there and having a limp, but also being able to do the tightrope.
Mm-hmm. And or maybe if anything, like he's also the one that dies. So like maybe he was the actor, someone that Seven brought on to be like the martyr or
Well,
something
and
of
that
the show.
yeah, that was my what another point for him, everyone being an actor. I think you could take three out of it if you. What floors showed up to the funeral? It was three, two, five, and four. Was that it?
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense. Like I mean, it lays itself to either they were the other people were actors, or you. I don't know. I mean, we didn't see six again, but obviously six has his own thing going on with being castrated.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
eight's in jail. Seven. I think to me the biggest.
Oh, wait. That's low key another point that I feel like it's still not, but it would make another point to that they're actors because this six, right? He
Mm-hmm,
fell down the stairs. You heard that crack.
mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, but he should not be able to walk. And they showed him in his room like laying down or whatever, but I'm sorry, you probably couldn't even lay down comfortably. You
Yeah.
probably couldn't even, and the way he didn't even really make noise when he was moved, and then he was castrated, but then later he comes out, he actually ties someone up. That's like a day later
Mm-hmm.
after that. He gets up, he follows floor one's orders to tie someone up, and then he's sitting in a chair. He's he would
Wait.
not
One gives
be.
him the orders. I think three gave him the orders. No,
Well, what
one
I'm saying
gave
is when one
one gave
he
three
like
the
told
orders.
people. Well, yeah, but didn't
Yeah.
Six
Yeah.
tie
No,
someone up in general?
I think
Maybe
he told
not, but he
three.
still looks too well to
He
be
does.
have everything that
Yeah,
happened to him,
he does. I like.
and he's not
I'm
in pain.
shocked he didn't die from that.
No, exactly. Like I thought he did. I thought he did. I thought the game was going to be over or something was going to happen in
Let
the
me. Okay,
game.
here's my biggest plot issue with this whole freaking show. When two, the lower floors take back over from the higher floors, and they're trying to run out the clock. Why does two not go spend the hours downstairs? That doesn't make sense to me. Because they establish early in the show that they can all end the show if they want to buy stuff downstairs because they don't buy with money, they buy with hours.
Hmm.
And it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't think of that to go end the show. Uh-oh. Okay,
You good?
my camera's back on. Sorry for the people that have been watching this without my video for a second, but it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't go spend the hours. Like she wants to get out of there.
I agree. That got me. That got me. I was so confused as to why they were just like, we gotta hold out. I gotta tie all these people up in their rooms. We gotta hold out. Like, was she just trying to make just that little bit amount more money?
I mean, it lends
Or if
itself
they
to
were
being
so,
it's an actor thing again.
it
You,
really could be. It
you
really
could
could be.
if we think this show is brilliant and has no plot holes, you could chalk up all the plot holes being to that this is a show being written and
By seven,
by seven
who
and
has
against
actors.
three. And that's another thing. That is another. It doesn't make sense that seven is so close with three specifically,
That's so true.
which leads to the fact that three is the only one not in on the fact that it's a show.
Why is this theory becoming more plausible?
I don't know. I'm just saying, or it's hell. It's one
Or
of the
tell.
one of the two. I don't
I
know.
feel like either of those theories is great, but either way, Seven has some sort of instrumental role, which is
Oh,
makes
Brooke,
sense to
it's
me.
definitely a show. I've got another idea for another
Oh,
thing
what
that
is
makes
it?
it. At the very beginning of the show, when we first meet three and he's being chased down, do you remember what he runs through?
Wait, hold on, hold on. We meet three, he's running.
He's running away from the goons, like the loan sharks. He runs through a movie
He
set.
runs through a film set.
I bet you that three was working on that movie set, saw him, and said, "That's my main character. Get him." I almost bet. I don't know for a fact. I don't quote me on this. I have not done the research. I bet you, if we look back through that scene, we'll see seven somewhere in there.
Ooh.
And if we
Okay,
do,
I don't know if they would do it, but
I that would be so
imagine.
good. I haven't seen anything online about it. I haven't done any research on it, so maybe he doesn't appear in that. But it makes sense to that he might show up in that part.
Let's see, hold on. I just need to remember when this actually aired. Uh, just because I feel like there's nothing like when I was looking for stuff, like there's
There's
basically
no.
so it came
It's
out May 17th. People haven't
people don't
theorized this
haven't
show
talked
to the
about it.
death yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, like, I think you could chalk up, and that's what I was saying earlier off the call was when we were just talking before the show. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say about this show because it doesn't feel like there's a lot to talk about. But when you really start thinking about the plot holes and the issues in the show, it shoots itself back to being it's a show. Like, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to have these issues, or obviously, these people are actors because
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's with the idea of us trying to make it a completely thought out show. Like,
It is, and that's something that you got to remember of I don't know how old the creator was when they created this, and I'm not saying anything about age, but just like when it comes to webtoons, a lot of comic books it seemed like you could also make the fact that if this was based off the comic book, which it was, seeing that he maybe didn't have an ending in mind when he started writing. And so
mm-hmm.
he like came out with each cartoon and they were just
Mm,
working towards an ending and didn't have one in mind.
that's true. You never know how much they actually plotted the whole thing beforehand.
Yeah, and I'm sure I know that we have different writing styles, but in stuff that I write, I never really think I have an end goal that I'm working towards. I have the last scene image in my head and I don't plot anything else out. I just get my main characters to go where they're going. And if they want
Mm-hmm.
to veer off to something else, I allow them to veer off to something else. Because I think best writing comes from allowing your characters to be themselves and allow them to make the choices that they want to make and not make it fit into my story.
Yes, I agree. Because, like you said, like the thing that makes a story go on and makes it interesting is the characters making choices.
Yeah,
So,
and I think that's something to be said about this show where three kind of I mean, you can even see the showrunners or whoever kind of abandoned three for a couple episodes because he was
mhm.
boring. Like he wasn't pushing us forward in any way.
Yeah, which also makes an argument for the fact of it being a show and three being the only non-actor is that like
He's the only
in
boring
real
one.
life,
Yeah, he's
exactly, in
yeah.
real life, we aren't that interesting half the time. We don't make risky decisions, generally speaking, because they're risks. But in media and in films and shows and books, the characters are always making decisions and risking things.
Mm-hmm.
So it would make sense that he's representing a regular person
I
in
agree.
real
I
life.
think that's a great point. I mean, I think that would make that argument that this might be a Truman Show.
Wow. I feel like I have to watch it again and like specifically
Yeah.
look for these things. I definitely do
Someone
want to go through. Go ahead.
someone needs to watch the opening scene and be like, just look and see if Seven's there. I'm not saying I
Yeah,
haven't watched it. I have not found him. It would make sense that he's there.
it would. It would
And
truly
yeah,
rock my world.
it sets the stage for the fact that this is a total show.
Yeah, 100%. I can't believe you've convinced me of that because when you first brought it up, it was
And
like,
and I've solved it, Brooke. I know why we go to the aspect ratio.
oh, why?
We go to the aspect ratio because that's the only time that we're not filming. And that's why the aspect ratio is that way.
This
Case
is it.
closed. Case closed.
This is
I've
it.
solved it. Except
And cut.
there's still a hole. There's still a hole in that. But
Oh, what? Oh,
the hole
no.
is that is everyone, if everyone else is not if everyone else is an actor, why is their screen the same way? Unless
Oh, but also, wait, here's a point that's against that too, because if they weren't filming, you know how in the intro, every time it was like a new character?
yeah, that's kind of what I was
It,
pointing to.
yeah, it showed them like, why wouldn't they have filmed that part? Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing is, and I know we got to end this episode in a minute, but another thing that points to one as an actor as well is that his story is so absurd. Like it,
Mm-hmm.
like I get that it's feasible, but it seems that his is the most absurdist story of his, like, I'm a clown, and then like even don't they do the gag of like a bunch of people getting out of a car? Am I making that up? Did that happen?
I don't know. Maybe I missed that.
It's like they're all at the hospital and there's like a couple clowns getting out of the car.
Oh,
It's
you're right.
it's absurdist. Like that doesn't happen. Like, I mean, it does, but like it just seems so convenient for the story.
It is. And just, I know this is like also like a suspension of disbelief thing, but also the way that he, in the end, when he's doing his like clown act thing,
Mm-hmm.
we can say, fine, maybe since he's done it before, allegedly, he can do this tightrope. But the part where it shows him jumping and he goes all the way into the clouds or whatever, obviously that's in his brain. But in the physical world, he actually jumps high enough to like grab onto this projector. I don't think that would have happened. I don't
No,
think he could do
no.
that with his legs and manage to grab onto the projector. Like you're telling me he didn't jump and like miss the rope or trip once he hit it, like to get that much air? Like,
I mean, I agree
I
with
don't
you.
know. It just seems like an act, or like maybe when he went up there as part of the show, if we're saying it's a show and he's an actor, he attached like a little clear wire to himself or something. I don't know. It pulled him up because there's no way. There's
There's
no way.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a show. Like, I mean, I think it is a written show that there is at least one person in the show that doesn't know it's a show, or like doesn't know that it's like they're actors. I believe, and
Yeah.
here's my, I have one more argument point, which I don't think I don't have a ton of basis on this, but I'm just gonna ask you this question: if there was one other person in this show, just one, that wasn't an actor, which number do you think it is?
I feel like it could potentially be either 4 or 5.
I think it's four. I think four is
Okay.
the only other non-actor in this show, and I believe that that's the case because she seems to be so much. When we're not focused on three, I feel like we shift focus to four. Like for the later episodes, she becomes more like in tune,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't make sense that they would like. Why would they not take five, but they took four for the higher levels?
That's
Unless
true.
Seven's over there writing like, oh well, we really need to put these two non-actors against each other, and they put him in kind of like, I don't know. It
Right.
just to me makes sense that like she's the only other person to me that would make sense that she's not an actor.
The only reason I would say also potentially four is because, or sorry, five, also potentially five is because five is also one of those characters who doesn't really make decisions
She doesn't.
until she starts going crazy or
Yeah.
starts she like is wrestling so much with everything that's going on that she just accidentally lets the the upper floors like releases them near the end.
Which also lends itself to the fact that she's an actor, though. With this is the
I
best time to
know.
release them because it's like this is gonna cause the most like movement in the show.
That's true. That is the one thing that I also thought about that I was like, oh, but she could be an actor for that. But it's just also, I don't know.
Okay,
I
Brooke.
just don't know. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, no, no. Sorry, sorry. I'm gonna ask this final question as we're wrapping up. Which theory do you think is more plausible? Do you think that Seven is the devil, or do you think they're in a show?
I think it's got to be a show.
I agree with you now. I was thinking this whole time that now they're in hell, but I think that it is a show, and I think three is the only non-actor.
Yep.
Wow,
Well,
we solved the H show.
we wrote the Eight Show.
I actually created the H show.
Is this is this the time you finally tell me that you're rich?
Nope.
Oh, okay. That's disappointing.